everybody. As promised, this is the last sort of instructional, informative training video today. And so this one is actually very exciting before we move on to the demos. I mean, I think it's exciting. It's the use that our agentic workforce in ScoutITAi, it's the use we make of Monte Carlo simulations in determining predictive outcomes. So if you're like me, if you go way back, right? If you've been working in IT a long time, I can think back when I was really young, we used to talk about someday being able to predict the actual mathematical impact of making changes, for instance, in production. So think about it this way: you have problems that are happening in production. So you get together in a room and you go, oh, we need to make this fix right here. And will it fix the problem? Yeah, it'll fix the problem. I think so. And so you go ahead and load that change into production, and maybe it does fix the problem. But the problem is, do you have any way to measure what the world was like before you made the change, what it was like after you made the change, and could you have predicted the exact amount of improvement that you were going to make when your team focused on a certain change to your environment or your applications? That sounded like nirvana. It sounded like something that could never happen. But in ScoutITAi, we actually can do that. And so one of the ways we use our agentic workforce, because the power of generative AI is undisputable. The things that it can do in a tiny amount of time that would take us just days or even sometimes weeks to do, that's undeniable. That's how efficient generative AI is. But when you combine that with two things, number one, the RPI measurement system that we employ, the Reliability Path Index, when you combine that with generative AI's use of Monte Carlo simulations, we can actually predict the impact of a change on your overall reliability score. So think about that. Is that something that makes it sort of tweaks your interest? Well, the way that we do it is we look at, and this is one of your agentic agents, under Analyze It that I told you about. There's one that you see under there called the predictor. And so he actually, a little visual representation, he's got like a long beard and he's a steampunk type guy. But it's just sort of funny, right? But the goal of the predictor is that he is trained not only on the stuff we talked about already, which is IT operations, your company, Six Sigma methodologies for improvement. Not only is he trained on all that, but he has full capability to autonomously run his own selection of Monte Carlo simulations against your data. So let me give you an example, and then when we do the demos, you'll see it. Let's say you have an application that on your RPI scoring seems to always hover down in the low 90s, and you'd really like to understand why. Why is it hovering in the low 90s? Why can't I get this thing to go higher? All you have to do is go to the predictor under Analyze It and pick the application that you've loaded in that you want to have analyzed by the predictor. The predictor will then, in about a minute or so, will run over 100,000 Monte Carlo simulations that determine if you were to make improvements to the weakest parts of that application, what could your RPI score be when you finished? Think about the power of that. Think about the ability to go to your leadership team or your CIO and say, look, if we can put our team on fixing these three things for this main application, I'll almost guarantee you that we'll get our RPI score from 92 all the way up to 95 in 6 months. Let's take a bet on that. That's the kind of confidence you have when you have the power of RPI with 100,000 Monte Carlo simulations. It's a lot of fun. I think it's pretty amazing stuff, especially if you've been in IT for a long time. So check out the predictor and under Analyze It. And then from this point forward, we're going to start doing some demos. So I hope you enjoyed this and look forward to seeing you in the demo classes. Bye-bye.